Ooh,
Hashtag
you talk about
Whoa.
slight leads, but then I see that Zergling count in the production tab for Lambo, and I'm getting a little bit excited, cats. And the Lings are coming out for Serral now. So those skirmishes, is this like a smell blood in the water situation with the hatch damage?
I mean, look at Serral. He's already tucked one Ling in between that mineral patch and the gas so that he can morph those Banelings and not have any surface area to worry about. But now Lambo coming in with the brunt of his force. Those Banelings will morph. Very strategical location there from Serral. And he has anticipated that this is a possibility. Lambo has to try to capitalize before those Banelings are morphed. But they're already here, so he has to retreat. And it's going to be a little bit of a dance as Lambo will finish his own Baneling nest and maybe look to continue the aggression from there. Slight advantages on either side, but the game is very much open.
Yeah, intense matchup, and you can really tell the speed that these players are going at as well with the constant leans, just a couple being sent here and there. It's a constant battle for information and knowing about what your opponent's going for, if it's going to be that big roach swell, if there's going to be a bunch of Banes behind it, sort of deal. As Serral comes back over towards the third base of Lambo, Banelings are getting a little bit close. Queen softened a few of them up, so actually does get a nice trade there. Gets 2 of Serral's Baneling for 1 of his own, so not the worst thing that could have happened.
Yeah, both players very much in sync at every other step of the way. Lambo with the Overlord drop potential here for his roaches as well. So this is a very interesting tactic. Where is that dropper lord? If we can find it somewhere. Okay, there it is at the natural base. Both players also going for the Overlord speed, but Lambo has tabs on the Overlord on his side of the map. So we'll see if Serral also, and Serral is also morphing a dropper lord. So these players are very much mirrored as far as their strategies are concerned, but they're going to look for little edges here and there. And look at that. Both players actually morphing the Overlords on their side of the map because of how well accounted the Overlords are on the other side.
It's almost like we're watching 2 of the best Zergs in Europe. How crazy is this? The Overlords are going to drive right past each other with their cargo. Of course, you kind of expect to run into other Overlords, so whether they directly look at it or not, I guess, is a different question on its own. These links for Serral out towards that third, but there's roaches, up fourth, excuse me. But there's roaches there, so nothing doing just yet. And, I love to see this. Tunneling Claws starts up for Serral, so we're going to get some burrow roach shenanigans.
This is a vintage Serral right there. I mean, that is what got the... This is the man that got that strategy nerfed, essentially, the Burrow Roaches with Tunneling Claws. They were too difficult to get rid of. Blizzard actually had to nerf them so that someone could attempt at defeating Serral. And look at this. Serral has made his way over to the side of the map of Lambo and will drop 4 roaches here. 3 roaches is enough to one-shot drones. They actually prefer to go over and into kill the queen, so that's gonna net him a few less workers killed, as he also pokes into the third and kills a total of 8 workers. Brilliant job by Serral.
Yeah, nice work there. Still has them alive, brings the Overlord back over, and he's going to try to keep that one available to go for another shot. Meanwhile, for Lambo, that drop has Banelings in it, so you don't quite have that potential sustained DPS or damage output. You just go for the big boom, take out the worker line if you can. It feels a little bit differently, and honestly, I get a little scared too, because it's not just 4 roaches and an Overlord. He's gonna snipe it now. That's a very good thing to pick off, but I was about to say, if he had waited a little bit longer, he might be able to drop those roaches and then they burrow, right? And then split up between those bases, and it's suddenly a whole lot more difficult to get rid of that harass force.
That would have been pretty nifty. I love the Banelings because the Banelings are really going to lose out on value as the game scales. So on the side of Lambo, this tends to do so much. But look at Serral. He already has a Spore in position to avoid for any big damage. And at the same time, Lambo choosing to go, okay, avoiding most of the battles there, as there's engagements pretty much everywhere. I don't know that Lambo will find an opening for those Banelings, but he's pushing on strong and onto the front of Serral. A lot of the Ravagers are exposed, which nets Lambo an advantage with that firepower in the backlines. Lambo seems to be doing okay, but Serral Roach's numbers are pretty big as well, and he seems to be pushing on forward. The supplies are much even. At the same time, Serral is dealing a fatal blow to Lambo's economy, and Lambo will choose not to pursue the issue further.
Yeah, what an intense engagement. And it's so tough because Serral is able to defend with everything on the front. But at the same time, he was hitting that 4th base. He was hitting that 3rd. Roaches are now tunneling their way into the main. He still has those roaches alive in several different places inside Lambo's base. So even though Lambo was able to get a good attack and try to trade against the army, he didn't deal the same level of economic damage as his opponent. And I know what you might be thinking, oh, that's not a crazy amount of drones, but 54 to 69, that's a pretty nice worker advantage if you ask me, Cats. And of course, when you run your drones away, they're not mining resources. So it's a tough spot because that's going to turn into now both players are maxing out, sure. But look at the bank that Serral has started to develop well in advance. He's going to have so much more money for a remax after a fight. It's hard to imagine him not trying to force the issue in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I love what Lambo is doing, though. He's not remade any of his workers, which might seem like an oversight, but it is the perfect thing to do. He has lost 17 of them, which means that his army will be massive compared to Serral's. His army is actually 24 supply higher than Serral's. So if he can take the engagement on the side of Serral and win it crashingly, he can still very much just push on through because there's a good chance that Serral can trade efficiently, but he can't have his army split for this reason. So let's see what happens here. Lambo needs to take a decisive engagement on Serral's side of the map. He's going to be looking for it right now. The concave favors Serral as that little do-that in the middle or whatever you would want to call it is on the way of Lambo, but he manages to get a good spread regardless. Serral remaxing with 17 roaches at a time, but this is a crashing engagement for Lambo. He has to continue to go on forward. Like you said, Serral still does have the bank. If Lambo can remove the roach warren, that'll be a huge pickoff, and that's exactly what he's going to go after.
Oh my God, yeah, gets the roach warren, and I think perhaps the other bigger thing we're talking about here, Cats, even if he builds all these roaches, can Serral get them together and actually get a fair fight with the supply advantage he's trying to create from that bank? Look at the drones coming off to fight in the natural. He's realizing this is such a hard force to get rid of. Those roaches are popping out of so many different hatcheries for Serral as he collapses on the army of Lambo. And if he can clean this up, he should be fine. He's done the damage on the other side, and there it is. Serral takes game number 1. This is a pretty early Evo chamber.
Oh, hells yeah. That's going to be a +1 melee attack, or maybe Carapace, actually. He has the gas for Carapace. So he's going to go Carapace into link speed, and he's going to be going for a link flood. So this is pretty freaking cool, though, because he has an idle evolution chamber at the front. So, you know, it's unlikely that he has another Evo chamber at the back actually researching stuff, right? So it's actually pretty damn cool. And the Carapace is going to serve as a double-edged sword for a potential follow-up from Lambo here into roaches. So he's likely going to be going for a strange 2-1 timing of sorts, I guess. It's very cool to see.
Yeah, it really does say a lot that we get to see these players push each other to the limit like that, because for a little while it was just Serral and Raynor, right? But more of these guys are busting their asses, climbing up the ranks, and really solidifying themselves as top contenders. And I honestly, that's what's made this whole tournament so interesting. We're still in the group stage. This is a decider match for a group stage that, you know, the loser of this doesn't get eliminated. We're going to possibly see these guys fight again later, which to me just makes it all the more exciting to, you know, we're going to see the first round. There could very easily be a best of 5 between these two gentlemen later down the line.
Yes, indeed. Carapace against no Carapace, but there's significantly more Zerglings on the side of Serral, so Lambo does not want to take the engagement regardless, and Serral almost has his +1 Carapace finishing. At the same time, Lambo will be first to the +1 attack on the roaches, so if he can get some roaches out, which is what he's working on now, and deflect this attack from Serral, he's actually ahead in workers in spite of him not having gone for that earlier third, because Serral has been so overly cautious here. Lambo is going to go for a counterattack and rely on his wall off, while Serral is going to look for a deny on his third. So very interesting trades here. Remember, Serral now has Carapace as well, so even numbers or slightly greater numbers will favor the Finn here.
It's got to be so intense trying to make the decision whether you take these fights. You have to be able to tell at a glance that you have a lot more links to win these engagements, especially before that Carapace upgrade kicked in that you were talking about. But look at on this mini map, Serral has a lot of his links that were kind of outside the base of Lambo with that third denial. But I think he's trying to set up to try and catch these lings on the way back so that he can just get all of them in one go. And he's going to try. He's got him almost surrounded. Look at the time of the ultimate closing in on this outlet. And all the lings get trapped against the rocks. When have you seen this? He's shepherding them. Oh, you're talking about the dogs. But it turns out Serral might be the sheepdog shepherding Lambo into the kill zone, as all of these lings now are going to come over towards the third. Does he want to fight the roaches? No, he's going to step back, but that's a huge amount of his army to keep alive throughout all of this. Yeah, and Serral's got to be feeling good. I wonder if he has that timing in mind, since that evolution chamber was really early, and of course that can turn into the upgrades. But Serral, you know, from that early phase of the game, didn't actually get to see as much as he would have wanted. But he does have all these Zerglings and the roaches. So before that +2 finishes, this could give him that opportunity to use an even number, you know, a somewhat even number of roaches versus a somewhat even number of roaches. But then all those lings he kept alive, he gets to keep them for this fight, and he's going for it. Roaches take down a queen immediately. He's cut off a few of them by the natural expansion, and the roaches at the third are starting to clean up. Drones are being moved back over towards the natural for Lambo. He's actually going to fight with them, feeling the pressure. He has to try and take this engagement, but the supply tilting heavily in favor of the Finnish Phenom as he continues to march forward, picking off queens, roaches rallying, and GG is called.